Hey Tathagat, welcome to the discussion. And it's been long that I actually saw you, but I'm so glad to finally be able to catch up on a lot of your stuff that you're doing and hear from you.
Likewise, Smita, I hope you are all taking care of yourself and doing good.
Yeah, so far, really keeping well and trying to stay safe here. So, Tathagat, one of the, I know that I wrote on your LinkedIn, so you would be aware of why I wanted to speak to you. So, just to give a quick background for anybody who's listening to this conversation, is that I follow Tathagat's posts. He posts a lot of interesting stuff on LinkedIn. And one of his posts recently, about a week back, this week itself, in fact, it made me, it got me thinking as to what the Tathagat's thoughts were about it. So I'm going to have actually initiate the discussion with that. And while I was going through his post, I realized that he posts very frequently. So in fact, between then and now, he's already posted a couple of other posts which caught my attention. So I'll try and see if we get time to discuss those two. So
Sure, look forward to that.
yeah. So let's get started with that, Tathagat. I think I've already pulled up the post that we're talking about. So let me just quickly give a context to people for that post. All right. So it's actually a doctrine by Ryan Tate activity. Let me just see if I can
Yeah,
post.
I think it's about the famous 20% time for innovation, I guess. I
Um,
think his Ryan's book is all about how the
yeah,
20%
yeah, yeah.
time can be
Yeah, but
used.
that was something I wanted to discuss later. I really wanted to actually bring up your point on hiring, which was the thing that really caught my attention. So I think yeah, I found that one. So
Okay.
in these times, Tathagat, I think for everybody, talent pool is, while we say that there is a lot of unemployment and everything, but talent is what people are really running after, and it's so difficult to retain them, and it's so difficult to find really the exact match of a person with respect to the skill set that you want. And so hiring in itself is a huge task for anybody. And in these times, you have mentioned that there, one of the things that you have been taught or not to do is not to hire people, even including Rockstar. Like what kind of people not to hire? You mentioned that, and that kind of caught my attention. So, at what is the point of inflection where you think that industry should actually take a decision against a rock star, like in terms of hiring?
Yeah.
And what did you
So
really mean by
personal.
the whole post? Sorry.
Sure, sure. So let me just first give the caveat emptor. I have nothing against the rock stars. I mean, yeah, we all wish that we all could be rock stars and we all could hire rock stars. So I think in principle, I'm not really opposed to that. The challenge that I see is when you have a situation when somebody is larger than life and they want to overshadow the team achievements or for example, the way of working by the team. Now, in the context of software, we know that software is a team sport. It is not an individual sport anymore. If like in the world of innovation, we say it takes a village to raise a child. So you cannot simply say that one individual can actually do that. You need all kinds of people to really support the entire idea and make it happen there. So in the context of rock stars, what happened is that when they have when their desire is to outshine everyone and they really want to be in the center of everything else, it can actually distract the team from the agenda of working as a team. And rather than that, one individual is trying to push his or her own agenda there. So that is the challenge that I see there. If people are really putting disproportionate amount of individual interest and putting the team interest on the back burner. So that is the phenomena that I was addressing in that blog post there. And my take on that is that everything else equal, we really need people who are actually the right kind of a fit inside a team context, rather than somebody who's going to be an outlier and they want to run the things their own way, because that's really going to disrupt the team rhythm. And as much as we have a rock star, the fact is one person cannot do the work of 10 people. You will need, I mean, there is something known as a natural throughput of any channel, right? So obviously you cannot simply magically have ten times more productivity or 10 times more kind of a thing there. You need to have a team, and there is a reason why the team is in the first place. So that attitude of an individual when they want to outshine the team, and they don't really regard the team norms, and they don't really believe in being a part of the group, that can actually create a lot of challenges for something which is as complex as software development, where there are a lot of interaction between individual. Like, it is not a task that can be parallelized among 10 team members and they can all run independently. If the task doesn't require interaction among them, then maybe it's possible for somebody to do, and you can build a leaderboard and say, oh, this person made the sales of the month, or this person made the employee of the quarter, because then you are able to compare them. But how do you compare it with the people when everybody's work is so interdependent on each other? That is where I think the rock stars don't really fit in as much as a team player will actually fit in there.
I kind of see what you are saying, because one of the things you had also mentioned in that post was, what if when people start to take success as their entitlement, like they're entitled to the recognition, they are entitled to the success. So it makes a lot of sense in what you're saying. But does that mean, so in your experience, have you seen a lot of, have you ever seen a 10x engineer? Like, you remember some time back, it was a fad, like everybody was talking about 10x, 10x. Is that a reality? Like you said, that productivity cannot be 10x just by, kind of putting a rockstar person like that. You have to have a team. But can there
So,
be one?
yeah, I mean, it's a very debatable context, I think. I've never seen a 10x engineer who could actually replace 10 engineers and be the only one person on the payroll with like 10x productivity so much that he or she might say, okay, give me the salary of all the 10 people. I mean, I'm just kidding on that. But the point here is they might be great in one particular area. Like, for example, I have seen, and I'm sure all of us have seen, that one individual who was so good in, let us say, configuration management, or somebody who was an extremely accomplished individual in toolsmithing something because they are great at tools, for example, or one individual is great because of the kind of business acumen they possess and the kind of business context they are able to bring in any discussion there, or one individual might be great in uncovering those corner situations when we are doing a testing strategy, for example. I'm sure all of us have seen those individuals, and they are an asset to the team because they are able to bring that specialized knowledge that others cannot have, because it's not like a generic knowledge. It's a very specialized tacit knowledge that one acquires with deep experience in the jungle. And once you have that, the best way you can do is you can bring it to the team and broad base it and share it, and kind of, and more than the knowledge, it is really the thinking system that leads them to that knowledge. To me, that thinking system is important. Now, to be able to say that that thinking system is possessed by a given individual in pretty much all the walks of software development, whether it is eliciting the requirements, whether it's looking at the design, whether it's doing the coding part of it, the whole, yeah, 9 yards, I think that is a little bit of a stretch there. And that's where I have a fundamental difficulty in accepting that one individual will actually be able to replace the entire team there to that extent. So they will obviously be good, and they should be obviously in an open fair market. They should be paid per their capabilities and per their contributions. But I don't think I have seen individually one engineer who was capable of coming up with the 10x or the whole throughput of the team there. But I would also go at the same time to say that they might have been 10 times better than any other person on the team in one given narrow area. Let us say design, or let us say code quality, or let us say ability to design the test strategy, or something else there. That is perfectly possible there. But they still need to work together in the team in order to deliver the features to the customers.
Yeah, I totally get that. And so actually, I would like to conclude on this particular post with a final question about, one is, let's say if I was a 10x engineer, hypothetically in my mindset, or if the world perceived me as a rock star, if I was that person. And I would also acknowledge that I have a sense of entitlement when I am in the team. Let's say I'm one of those persons who understands that yes, this is something not acceptable to the team and the world and the new ways of working, but I have that. Uh, is there any advice you would like to give to a person like this, saying this is how you may want to, kind of be a better team player, or maybe other skill sets that you could highlight that drop this one, probably build on these kind of skills to be a better
Yeah.
contributor.
Yeah, the problem happens when an individual starts, or especially a rock star. I mean, the way I'm saying it, it might sound like a pejorative term. I don't mean it to be a pejorative term. I'm just indicating the bad symptoms that often can come with the term there. And when they take success as an entitlement, because when they go to a new place or a new team and they say, hey, the success is not happening, and at that point in time they might start blaming others for that and say, hey, I have always delivered success in the past. I think it must be because of you guys, because I know what I'm doing and I'm like on the top of my game. And that may or may not be true. There could be n number of situations, like in that blog post I referred actually to some studies they did on the Wall Street with the investment bankers. And the what they found was that the rock stars who left an investment bank and they moved to another one, it took them almost 5 years for them to be able to go back to the same level of performance, for the simple reason that there was a complete society or a community around them which was helpful in their own success there. So they cannot take that entitlement as only because of me it's happening there. There were so many people, their friends, their colleagues, their managers, their admins, everybody was supporting them in order to operate at that level there. So that's where really I see the challenge in terms of people who might sometimes feel that they are entitled to the success even in a new situation there. I think for me the biggest the first and foremost thing is really have a beginner's mindset. Don't go with arrogance, go with the humility of saying that, hey, this is a new situation, I'm going to work with new set of people there, and there might be people who have already been there for last n number of years. Obviously their years count for something. So maybe let me learn from them what is this all about, and maybe if I'm new to something, let me understand what could be the challenges in kind of bringing my doing my transfer learning from one area to the other area. What adaptations do I need to do in order to start being operating there? So that's number one. Number two, I think it is the team chemistry that counts. Like for example, you take the cases. Look at this. Like whenever we have seen those kind of World 11 versus a top team playing, the World 11 kind of tends to lose actually, because when you have so many rock stars all together there, their individual egos start clashing with each other, and they get into all kind of challenges because, well, everybody wants to shine, everybody wants to outshine everyone else there. Whereas a regular team which has a very good team chemistry can actually start operating much better than them, everything else equal. So my pushback would be really that anyone who really goes there might actually see that there are already probably established power centers or some kind of other mini rock stars there who have already shown in the past there. Maybe it's a great idea to really learn from them and build bridges with them, and really offer, if you feel you know something that the team doesn't know, then offer yourself to be of service to the rest of the team, rather than imposing on them and saying that I know better than you, because that kind of conversation doesn't lead to anywhere there. Um and thirdly, I would say that if I think to me personally, there is no fun in doing the same thing over and again. Let's say, even if by any stretch of imagination I consider myself as a rock star, that actually means that if we take the work of, for example, Carol Dweck, and she talks about the fixed mindset versus growth mindset, I'm very likely that I've gone into this fixed mindset kind of a thing, where I'm very comfortable in a given area and I'm kind of repeating the same thing there. Now, I don't know about others, but at least certainly about me, I would really bore myself to death if I were to do the same thing over and again for like 3, 4, 5, 10 times there. I would certainly want to do something new in everything that I'm touching there, which essentially means that if I am sticking to the same thing, then yes, it's quite possible that I'm maintaining a very high level of performance, because obviously I'm not changing anything. So I'm just repeating the same thing. But then that also to me means that I'm repeating the same thing because, well, then if there was a new thing happening there, I would have a learning curve, and my performance might dip down, and again it goes up there while I get proficiency in that, right? So I would take that as a bad smell, in the sense that if I'm really operating at the peak, something is wrong. I'm not challenging myself enough. I'm not learning myself enough. So I would say that one thing that one could do is really say that, hey, this is something I've done n number of times and I'm really bored now. Let me find people in my team who are interested in learning it, and it could be a value add to their career. So let me just kind of delegate that knowledge and delegate the responsibilities and free up my bandwidth a little bit there. So which is a win-win situation in my view. You also enable the young and upcoming team members. You also free up your own bandwidth and open it up so that you can learn something new there. So I would say that always being on the edge of learning could be a great thing. So I don't have a magic formula for that, but I would say in every activity I do, I'm subconsciously looking for maybe 20% new elements, 80% kind of leveraging what I already know there. Now, if you keep doing it as a habit every time, then obviously you would be continuously learning something new, and you are also sharing things back. So you are humble at the same time, as well as you're not too much overconfident, because if 100% of the things were old, you would be overconfident and boring. If let's say 50 or 70% of the things were new, then you would be very vulnerable every time, because you don't know how you are going to deliver certain things there. So we always build on the existing knowledge, but we also kind of consciously look for something new there. So that's the last thing I would add there, which is really finding things that don't interest you anymore, or you have done them very well and you don't see any newness or a novelty factor in them anymore, and others could actually benefit from them better than you doing it yourself. Plus it's also building a redundancy in the team, to the extent that if you are not there, or if somebody is not there, somebody else, the show will go on, somebody will keep moving the engines there. So that way I think it could be a great opportunity for people who have already been an expert in a given area.
That's a good input, actually, Tathagat. So I'm actually taking my key takeaways from right now. What you said is, firstly, come with an open mindset to also learn from the existing leaders and people who have actually been there, done that when you're joining a new team, or even when you are around people. And like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. So you have to acknowledge people who are, really at the who are really supporting you in a lot of ways, and that could be contributed half of that, while I can contribute to people's networking abilities, that how much they are able to connect with people and get them to work for them. But at the same
Yeah.
time, there are a lot of people for whom you have not done enough yet, but they are still contributing towards your success. So acknowledge that you are not successful all by yourself. You're using a team, you're depending on a team, and you're leveraging them. And so that's what, when you said that it takes them few years to again start at a new place, because they have to now build this network of people again from scratch on whom they can depend. And my third takeaway is, also be open to, come with a mindset of contributing, not just taking. So you come in there and you see how you can also make the environment rich with your experience, so that others are probably learning also from you. And then my final takeaway was about learning something new all the time, not just trying to keep doing the same thing and being a rock star in that one place. Yes, you have kind of mastered that one skill, but how long do you want to just continue doing the same thing and staying there? That kind of becomes, you may actually become redundant one day, over literally overnight, because if somebody else is working on it and something
Yeah.
gets better. Yeah. So that's a lot of good input, Tathagat. And just so while this post that I saw was good and it's inspired me to actually talk to you. Like I mentioned earlier, that when I looked at your posts, your profile on LinkedIn, you have posted quite a few interesting ones. And moving on from this one, I wanted to ask you about two more posts which caught my attention. One of them because, and both of them I found is such timely posts and so relevant, because one of them talked about motivation. That it could be more than extrinsic rewards. It could be an inner calling. It could be something. So, and in these trying times, I think people need tons of motivation to even focus. Like I was telling you earlier, that my immediate family and myself, we are safe. We haven't got COVID yet. We are not really in a bad situation. But somehow, just because people all around us in the surroundings are impacted so much, and that has indirectly impacted us also. While I'm not dealing with medicines and isolations, and I just feel low and down a lot of times. So one is motivation, really personal motivation. Like I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts about motivation, and what you think motivate people, or what could be the factors? And there is, how can people really keep their motivation high in such trying times? What can they look up to? Reading books or anything that you could suggest?
Yeah, yeah. No, no. First of all, thanks for your feedback on the blog post. I mean, the whole idea there is whatever I find inspiring and interesting. I think people in my network might also find the same. So I just share it there, and it's like a bee in the bonnet. Once it is in my head, that idea I have to get it out of the system, and the best way I know is to write about it, because until I write it, it just keep like a bee in the bonnet, and it's just going to bother me all the time. So I just write there, and for me the main reason is that so many like-minded people, they chime in and they share their point of views. They add to my own knowledge there. They add to discussions. They add to disagreements, and that's how we all learn as a community there. So that's really the thing that motivates me actually in this case. To your question, I totally agree. I think it's a common situation for all of us right now. In fact, just today itself, so you know that I'm pursuing my PhD, and we are doing PhD as a batch, right? So there's a batch of almost 16 of us, and we were discussing on our WhatsApp group, and somebody said they have like most of the people said they haven't made a lot of progress in the last month or couple of months actually. And somebody was remarking that, and I was just saying that, hey, it's important to keep the meter ticking. To me, that's really important. It's exactly like the cricket. You have to keep the scoreboard ticking there. Sometimes when the going gets tough, we cannot make the same level of progress. You are going through a fatigue. I mean, we are all going through a mental fatigue more than anything else. Just to the point you said, it's a very similar situation for us also. I mean, personally, for me and for my most immediate family, touch wood, we have been unaffected there. But my friends, my team members, my extended family, there have been all kind of challenges there, serious illnesses, very unforeseen situations of how people have lost their like a major part of their family actually. So obviously there are all kind of situations there. And then when you are in a situation when you are not directly impacted, you also start I'm seeing the trend in the last 1 month. The survivor's guilt is also pretty high now, because you feel that, hey, I'm going through I've been untouched by this, and like how can I even I'm not even allowed to relish the things in life, because it would be so bad on me that when people are dying and going through all kind of situations, I cannot really enjoy life, right? So you go through that kind of bouts of introspection and do that, and I think it's fairly natural in my view. I think the first thing I would say is that have a social connect. I mean, it's very important for people to have some kind of a social trust circle. It could be your family, your children, your parents, your spouse, your partner, your friends, whosoever you can be. I think it's the first and foremost thing to have that, so that at least you can share what is going on, what's keeping you engaged there. So that's the first thing. The second thing is give yourself some slack. It is not the normal kind of a thing. There will be days when you will not even want to get out, feel like getting out of the bed, and you will not be productive. You will sit in front of your Zoom call and you're working with your team, but your mind is too distracted in something else. So it's not going to be the same thing. I mean, yes, obviously, if it goes on for a long period of time, you should be worried. But in general, give yourself some slack, that if once in a while those situations happen, listen to your body, and accept the point that yes, you cannot explain and put your finger on what's really ailing you. Physically, nothing is ailing you, but mentally, emotionally, there is something, all the things around you are kind of draining you out and sapping your energy levels. And I think you need, it is like I was telling actually a team member of mine, and he is recovering from COVID right now. And I'm waiting for him to get back to office in a week now. And I was telling him that before he was diagnosed, he was COVID positive. I was telling him that, see, in a normal circumstances, we all work with each other, and you always, I've always seen myself as like, I'm filling your cup, right? For example, so I'm filling your cup with my expression of empathy and support and positivity and motivation and cheerfulness, right? Now, if I fill up people's my team members' cup, and at some point in time, my own levels will start depleting dangerously low, and I also need to fill up my own cup, right? So call it the cup of compassion, cup of empathy, cup of support, cup of trust, whatever, right? So obviously, when you are running low on that, there is no way you can continue that. So you also need to bring up to the safe levels there. So you have to find somebody who can fill up your cup. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult there. So one is, don't be so hard on yourself when things do not happen there. When you are in a leadership role, there are very few number of people who can actually fill up your cup, right? Because like in your role as your companies, you're running your own company, right? So obviously you have a responsibility as a leader, but there are not too many people in the team who might actually think of that, hey, I owe something to my manager, or I owe something to my leader in terms of cheering them up, right? We always think that, well, leaders are meant to be always on kind of a thing, right? And nobody has to really cheer them up. So it happens there. So give yourself a little bit of room for thinking, for mistakes, for slack. Uh, Also have some distraction. What I have found is, like for me, since my PhD work keeps me busy, and that's not to say that I'm doing very well in that. I'll be very ashamed of actually what I have done in that. But it's okay. I do understand, but I think it's a distraction to me. So when things don't happen, I'm at least able to open up a book and start reading that, because that's something I've committed for, and I need to do that. Now I might so there are two or three things, right? One is really cutting the corners, one is slowing the pace, and one is reducing the scope, right? This is like our project management iron triangle sort of a thing there. So I'm not saying that you reduce the you cut down the corners. First of all, don't cut down the corners, because cutting down the corners will actually be lowering your own standards, which I think hurt you more in the long run. Lengthening the pace could be one option there, and shortening the scope could be another way to look that. So maybe there was a deliverable due on the 20th. Now instead of 20th, you say, no, I'm not really going to be able to do that. I can do it by 25th. If it is possible, then it's okay, because sometimes that is the weak signal the body is telling you. See, we are always unfortunately looking at the strong signals, and we always say, what is the proof that this is working? What is the proof that you are not feeling well? Well, in this particular case, there are a lot of weak signals the body is sending us, and we have to, I think, pick up those weak signals. And it is that general feeling of like, I'm not really feeling that. Okay, let me give myself a day or two, and then, even then, if I cannot do, at least maintain the basic scope. So thinking like an MVP kind of a thing might be a good idea, instead of just like boiling the ocean there. But don't lower the standards. If you have to finish a research paper, or if you have to do a report, take another 2 days, or 3 days, or 5 days. But whenever you do that, do a bang up job, so that nobody can really say that. I think, to me, that has really worked well. And I'll be first one to admit that there have been times in the last 1.5 years, so many times when I have not been in a position to complete the work on time there. But I think it is the support of my manager at work, or my family here at home, or my own way to motivate myself, and saying that, hey, it's okay. I mean, this is not something that's going to change next week, right? We are in it for next 6 months, 1 year. Who knows how long we are in it for that one? So you have to build a different way to deal with that. And jokingly, I keep telling people that we have to learn from the animals in the cold climate, that they go into hibernation. How do they survive? I think we'll have to learn from them, because they also go through the extended periods of it's literally an incarceration. So how do we really deal with that and continue to stay motivated so that when the good times come again, we are in the best of the spirits and continue doing it? Just one last thing on that. I also have a hunch that when the good times will come, and they will come, I think it's not a question of if they will come, it's a question of when. We will suddenly see ourselves becoming like 5x or 10x more occupied in things, whether it is work, whether it is family, whether it is job, whether it is hobbies. We will we will suddenly be finding ourselves with no time really to do things. So and at that point in time it will be the same problem, that we will not be productive at that time also, because we'll simultaneously have so many things going on after a long period of time, that we will not be able to prioritize it. So I think the way I look at it is something that you have been pushing over for a long period of time, and you said, hey, I wanted to learn Spanish for the last 10 years, I never got a chance there. And I was reading somewhere that if you don't manage to finish off that during this time, then I mean it is not that I think it went something like that. Your excuses are something else, right? It's really a question of your commitment and and willpower, that you really want to do that or not. So I'm actually going through. Sorry, I'm learning. I've started to teach myself Python, and I'm doing some data science work on a couple of things. I'm learning myself some new things there, because I think it's always the joy of creation that really takes over and builds the biggest motivation for me, that I'm able to bring something to life, something that didn't exist, at least in my mind. I'm able to bring that to life. So I think, and again, I recognize not everything might work for everyone. People might be motivated by different things in life. Somebody might be I see so many people who are taking every single moment of their waking hours in just helping people. Okay, oxygen cylinders can get the information. So their biggest source of filling up their cup is really somebody's life has been saved there. So that's really the best thing that they can do. If you are not touched by COVID, and you feel you are in the best situation right now, I think the best way to pay it back to the society will be to help people in need there. On a personal basis, find something that really gives you some new capabilities, and allows you to develop some new talent, and help in whatever talent is there. I think some of those things could help in doing it. So just no specific framework here, but at least some assorted thoughts on this, Smith.
No, absolutely, Tathagat. That was a lot of very, very good inputs and insights into how to stay motivated. And I think I'm myself going to listen to this chat again and again to be motivated. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just take one more minute of yours, because we are running short on time now. So we'll take one more minute and quickly talk about one last post of yours, where the sentence that I really caught on was. Just go to that one, where you said, um, yeah, the leaders of these companies know it too well. By continuing to mindlessly exploit the present is only going to make them eventually more unprepared for a very uncertain future. But over investing in the future might make lose friends everywhere, external customers who want their here and now problems addressed first, internal employees who don't really see those fancy ideas ever fructifying, and the investors on the fence who don't see windfalls as yet. So, how could one strike the right balance if ever there was one? I want to hear from you what you really meant by this. And also, I'll quickly give you the background is when I read this sentence of yours, it made me connect to this whole sentence connected so well with my current work that I'm pursuing, which is around sustainable development, not necessarily only in the space of corporate world, but in general. So while governance is also part of my work where I look at it, but this is exactly what I struggle with every day, because organizations are not looking beyond their immediate problems, their immediate financial year returns. That is all they care for. And this is at least my experience. So I want to hear from you what you meant by that line, and what are your thoughts about it? How can we
No, sure. And first of all, glad that the idea resonated with you, because I think, and I can hardly take the claim for this, but I think it's a for the last 50 years we have heard various researchers and authors have really discussed this subject well. So the one of the first papers is by Marsh, which is a classic paper in that which in which he talked about the exploitation versus exploration. And if you think of it, it is in some sense the history of human evolution. When we were hunter gatherers, we were really in the process of really exploitation, right? So our forefathers 10,000 years back, before the invention of agriculture, were nomads, and they would go wherever the food was there, right? And whether it was a patch of grass or whether it was an animal, that's what they really had for survival. And then they discovered agriculture. At that point in time, they realized that agriculture meant settling down somewhere, because as opposed to the exploitation, it was an exploration problem also, in terms of really like sowing the seeds and then waiting for 3 months or 6 months for the crop to happen. Now imagine that's the kind of time it takes for them. So you are actually you are deferring the gratification, instead of immediately gratifying yourself and saying, let me eat whatever is there here and now. You are saying that I'm willing to wait for 3 to 6 months. Now obviously willing to wait 3 to 6 months also means that you have to feed yourself till that time, because the crop will be available if at all it comes up, right? There are so many vagaries in nature that's going to have an impact. You could have rains, or you could not have rains, or you could have a swarm of locusts come and destroy the crop. A lot of things can happen there, right? And that same analogy to me is so Christensen talked about the whole innovator's dilemma, right? In terms of whether I invest in the status quo or whether I take it to something new there. I was referring to the same thing there, that the challenges, if you, and part of the reason is also that I have worked with some of the large successful companies in the past that were so successful, and they were so focused into their here and now kind of a problem. They did not take their eyes off and see what was coming ahead 3 months, 6 months, 1 year down the line, and they eventually perished. One of them was a $20 billion company that doesn't exist today. There was another company which was in its heydays, obviously the leader of internet revolution, valued at $180 billion, which lost the relevance over a period of time. And at least my take on this is that there are two ways to deal with the situation. You are focused 100% on the here and now problems, so you don't invest anything in the future, in which case you are underprepared for the future, and the future might change things there, right? Because, well, you have new technologies happening literally every week, something new is coming. So you are so focused that you keep optimizing, but then the world doesn't need that anymore. So you are you're talking about a very dwindling market share over a period of time. The other way is that you are putting some money in the future and some money in the present. Now, if you put more money in the future, you might have a situation where you have the products coming up, but then the market is not ready, and you are kind of ahead of the time there, right? And one of the things that is, I think, still the magic in the world of entrepreneurship. I think I'm referring to that TED talk by Bill Gross, where he talked about what were the most contributing success factors. It was not the problem, it was not the technology, it was not even the talent, which should be very humbling to. It was not funding, obviously. So there were, and then what he found was, if I'm not mistaken, 41% success was determined by the timing actually. And timing is really something which can be very humbling for a founder to accept, that because they have no control on that. It's like, hey, there's no scientific way to really get the timing right. But then the key challenge is, if you're ahead of the time, then obviously you have a product and an investment that has no market. If you are behind the time, then you are already too late, and there are already 20 people ahead in the line for you, and you might become irrelevant there. So the key thing is, how do you really find the right balance between your investment portfolio, which is between present and the future portfolio. Now there are various methods, and I like the work, for example, done by Professor Vijay Govindrajan. He has talked about like the three box framework, in which he talks about it. And there are multiple other ways. There is a three horizon thinking which talks about some of those. So there are multiple management frameworks available. But I think the fundamental principle is really all about saying that if I don't invest in the future, I am looking at a uncertain future because the people will move on with or without me, and I don't know because I'm so busy solving my problems here and now. If I do over investment in that, then the problem is that I may not. I'm not taking care of this because the same dollar is not going into solving today's problems. So my customers may be very upset because you are developing new products but not taking care of their immediate issues. Sometimes the employees could get a little concerned that, hey, we are doing all these fancy project ideas that are never shipping. I don't want to work. I mean, I like the whole feel of working on cutting edge and all, but I also want to get the feel of solving some customer pain points. And if we never ship any product there, then what do I tell people? What do I learn in my own career? And the investors might give up at some point in time because they are the ones who are saying, okay, we decided to fund it, but we are just funding it and we are not getting any returns out of the whole thing. So I think the key thing to me is really striking that right balance between how much to invest in future versus how much to continue in the present there.
Absolutely, Tathagat. I think one of the things that I kept thinking when you were talking about this was maybe that is where corporates need to invest in some visionary leaders. Maybe that is where corporates, therefore, keep looking for that one CEO who can give that sustainability to the organization over generations. Because if you are, like you rightly said, that it has to be a fine balance between here and now and the futuristic outlook. And sometimes, in fact, investing in future also means it could be a little uncomfortable to certain extent. And
Yeah.
sometimes, you are okay with your linear growth that you're doing year on year. And then uh, you want to put a break on that and say, okay, that this is fine, let it go. But let's try for something exponential. Let's keep looking into the future and see what's going on. Like you said that there could be those storms, and there could be things which would actually, during those 3 to 6 weeks or months of preparing the food, what if it doesn't happen? What if all this effort
Yeah.
goes waste? So that's
Correct. Yeah.
always a risk. But I think that's where the investment into that leader and a team and a culture of innovation helps, because
No,
then
I absolutely agree with you. I think it's really the right leader and the leadership can actually bring the biggest difference there, because nobody can really predict the future. We all can take a shot at it. We all can read the weak signals. We all can place some bets on it, and hopefully we are not making big bets. I mean, yes, we need to make meaningful bets, but the thing is, and that's again the difference between the disruptive versus the incremental innovation. I might have those thousands of small things. Even if 80% of them are successful, the point is how much of needle are they moving there, versus one single thing where the risk might be that 80% risk is that you are failing, but if you make it big, you are looking at a next $1 billion product there. So I think that the challenge is obviously there in terms of saying, and I think the great companies obviously do not rely on fluke alone. They have obviously mastered the art of turning those questions and interesting questions into strategic priorities, and saying, how do we really pursue them? How do we really systematically eliminate the noise out of it? And how do we continue to kind of pursue and double down on things that are making sense for us there? So yeah, I think that's totally, I mean, that's the $1 million question that we all have.
wow. I could go on and on, Tathagat. It's so wonderful to keep talking to you about these thoughts and discussing with you. But I also understand that I will always almost spent my hour with you. So in the
No,
end,
nice talking to you. Nice talking, Smita, like always, and happy to share these thoughts, and hope it's of value to the people who are watching this. So thank you.
yeah, and thank you. And I really hope we get to talk more often, and I really hope to discuss more topics with you. So thanks again for your time. Really appreciate it.
Sure. Likewise, Smita, and thanks for the opportunity. And wish you safe, and see you soon. Hopefully, COVID will be over and we get a chance to meet in person also. Thank you.
Thank you, Tathagat. I hope everyone learns something from this, because Tathagat is one of my go-to person if I need some sounding board, and if I need to look for some intellectual insight. He's one of the top persons that I really look up to. So I really hope people enjoy listening to his insights and chat. Thanks, Tathagat, again. See you. Bye.
Thank you. See you. Bye.